Well, unfortunately, this clip is going to be nothing but grinding. If you're not in the mood to see me doing the monotonous task of getting Garm up to snuff, then I'd advise completely skipping over this clip. Part of me wishes I could join you, but grinding is part of the journey, and unfortunately, in the first Pokemon game, it feels like it's a bigger part of the journey than in some of the others. Though maybe that's due to, the choices in Pokemon for my team in this one here. I mean, seriously? A Magikarp, Abra, and Growlithe aren't exactly Pokemon that go from small and weak to big and strong in a hurry. Considering the levels we're seeing in this patch of grass, maybe this isn't the best place to get Garm to fight for his own advancement here. Seriously, the occasional wild Pokemon at level 20? The poor pup's only 16! Yeah, definitely feels like training him in the spot we grabbed him just isn't going to be especially efficient. Sure, technically speaking, the higher level wild encounters are going to give more overall experience, but we're going to be trading in other Pokemon to get half that experience so much that Garm's just going to be essentially watching for a long time. I'd kind of prefer that he gets to sink his teeth into some foes, even if we have to look for weaker ones for him to bite into. Unfortunately, the nearest bit of grass is on the other side of the Dark Cave, so at the moment, it's a question of what's more annoying to me right now. Constantly switching for a Pokemon that does have offensive moves of his own, or going back through the annoying caves we already took a lot of time to get through before. What a surprise! Blinding Marbleback makes his already iffy accuracy a little worse. I know, it's not really his fault that Rock Throw, what's supposed to be his signature move, is painfully inaccurate and doesn't hit hard enough to make up for it. And he's just as accurate with Tackle as anyone else who happens to have it. Still, needs something to talk about as we go through another bit of grinding in this grind-heavy game. And I don't think there's much point in talking about how Pidgeys will look different in every other installment, including Yellow. Again, this is the first game in the franchise. They're allowed to make whatever art edits they want to do after Red and Blue, and whatever gameplay edits they want to do after. As a side note, I'm not all that sure why in Japan the first generation was Red and Green instead of Red and Blue. Sure. Generally speaking, all the colors for the games, at least when they still used colors to pair the games off, are arbitrary. Still, red and blue tend to feel like they're more frequently paired together than red and green. I mean, it's not like anyone ever seems to pair off purple and tan, or orange and white. Unless people actually do pair those off, and I just haven't heard about it. I'm not an expert in how every culture on the planet does color associations or something. Well, at least we're facing something that's at the same level as Garm right now, mostly because Growlithes are apparently the lowest level things out here. And just as I say that, we run into a Growlithe that's one level above Garm. Never was a fan of moves like Roar and Whirlwind. At least Teleport has some measure of utility for the player outside of battles, even if I'm not all that much of a fan of running away from battles at all, really. And what makes these two moves even worse is the fact that some Pokemon should just plain be completely immune to them. Seriously. A cute little dog making a roaring sound, somehow scaring off a trained Pokemon that is around 10 levels higher and probably several 100 pounds heavier? And it really only makes it... It really only feels like it's meant to make capturing Pokemon more of a pain in the ass, especially since here in the first generation, it never works against other trainers. Ugh. At least in the second generation, could force the other trainer to switch Pokemon out. Again, looking forward to seeing the tweaks done between the first and second generations. I remember the gameplay certainly was improved by adding some more types, fixing a few glitches, and adjusting some moves here and there. But I really wish I could remember if the storytelling and world building in Gold, Silver, and Crystal is better than Red, Blue, and Yellow. Yeah, Garm isn't gonna come out on top of this exchange. Still, it was only a matter of time before I got sick and tired of switching out a Pokemon that does have the ability to fight for himself, even if the fights in this patch of grass are too much for him to handle. Well, at least we're leaving that patch of grass for the moment. Right, sorry for getting you knocked out by one of your former neighbors, Garm. Let's see if going to the cave is going to be an improvement or if we're going to have to go even further back. Well, at least that Machop is lower level than Garm. That's something. Though given this exchange rate, yeah, definitely going to have to go further back. Well, that's progress, but we're still going to have to go back to the Pokemon Center in a hurry. Well, hopefully I'll have made it to one of the previous Pokemon Centers so Garm can keep fighting without having to get constantly healed or switched out. Yeah, definitely switching out for a rock type in here. Well, it's not going to be as much of a pain in the ass to go through this cave when we've cleared out all the trainers, and the high encounter rate certainly does help us grind. I'd still rather have a better idea of our surroundings than what we see in here. Yeah, looks like Zubats are the preferred meal for the moment. And thankfully, they're the most common thing you're gonna be finding in these caves. Though the Geodudes and Machops make it tougher to really say the cave is an ideal place for Garmir to train. And of course, since we want to face mostly Zubats, we're getting more variety than just that to spite me. Sure, we can take on the other Pokemon, but that doesn't change the fact that it's annoying to pull off here. with what we've got. Right, should have gotten Neo out for this guy too. Sorry there, Garm. Second time he's been knocked out in a single clip. Definitely embarrassing, since getting him higher leveled is the entire point of this clip. I know. I've said it a number of times in this playthrough, but I'll say it again. It's a good thing I'm not doing a Nuzlocke run. Sure, there's a certain tension in doing a Nuzlocke run that would really help make the overall game feel even more fun, but I'm not skilled enough and consistently aware enough to have fun with it. I absolutely respect anyone who does a Nuzlocke run of any kind in any of the Pokemon games, but that just doesn't feel like it's for me. Again, I probably should have given Bubble Beam to someone. Considering how common rock types are, it's kind of sad that I have so few ways to take one out down in a hurry. Sure, we're not exactly weak to them, but we're not exactly strong against them either. Dude, you and yours are getting more than a little obnoxious at this point. I know you live in this cave and we're heading here to grind, so you grinding our progress to a slower pace isn't all that bad, but still. The guy we actually want to raise up is unconscious right now, and while getting the rest of the team closer to level 30 is not a bad idea in and of itself, the main purpose here was to raise Garm to level 27. You'd think I'd remember the dead ends better since we've already gone through this cave once before. Ah well, at least the mazes in this game are pretty simplistic, or at least simplistic compared to the Metroid games. If I can get lost in these simplistic things, it's no wonder that I refuse to do either of the Metroid games that I do not have to any kind of helpful mini-maps to work with. And with that, we're finally on the other side again. The grass just north of the cave should be a good point to train at. Just need to heal up Garm again and save before getting started on that part of the process. Yeah, that's significantly better for Garm at the moment. Would have been, it might have been faster back at the other grassy field, possibly, after all. The Pokemon there were higher leveled and all that, so even though we had to switch out quite a bit, Garm could get more experience per battle than soloing the Pokemon over here. And we can assume that once Garm gets to the right level, he could take on everyone in that patch of grass we caught him in. Still, when I'm doing something as mindless as grinding, when I'm actually playing, I like to be able to pull out a book or my phone and start reading while doing it. A little hard to do that if you're consistently and constantly looking up from the phone or book to see if you need to switch Pokemon for that particular fight. Anyway, we finally have a Fire-type attack in this team. That's certainly gonna make dealing with Erica a good deal less painful. Ah, Voltorb, another Pokemon I like a good deal, but unfortunately there's no more slots on this team for it. I might throw him into Blue Team, though. Hell, this is a finalized crew for Red Team. As far as I remember, I'm not going to switch anyone out of this team for any reason. Still, may as well catch the ball in a ball. Can't help feeling that there's more going for Voltorb than there would have been for Onix anyway. Still, not sure how someone could confuse a Voltorb for a Pokeball, since even at their generally largest, a Pokeball is fist-sized, while a Voltorb is typically around the size of a soccer ball at least. Still, functionally speaking, they are mimics in other role-player games, which actually makes me feel a bit disappointed there aren't more occasions in this game of a Voltorb faking being an item in the overworld. If I remember right, that only really happens in the power generator building, the place you had to go to get a Zapdos. Not that I'm all that inclined to grab a Zapdos, though, even if, in the short amount of time I played Pokemon Go, I chose Team Instinct. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny. Despite having 3 separate phones during the lifespan of Pokemon Go so far, none of them actually worked out when I tried playing that game. The first was too old, and no matter how many software updates I did, it didn't make up for the fact that the hardware for it just wasn't made with that game in mind. The second had a good internet connection and solid location tracker, but unfortunately, its battery just couldn't handle the strain. Since I got the game in the first place to help deal with the fact that the job I sometimes go to requires a decent amount of traveling, and I needed that phone to still have battery power in case of an emergency, it wasn't a hard decision to uninstall the damn thing that was melting my batteries. The third and most recent phone, which in many ways was an improvement over the second, had crappier internet connection, so the only way I could log in was if I was at a Wi-Fi. The location tracker proved to be a bit iffier in the game as well, not tracking my movements at all, while Pokemon Go was running because it took up too much processing power for the location tracker to keep updating the game with the information. It works perfectly fine with Google Maps, just not that game. Seriously, when you travel 2 miles and the screen claims you didn't walk but just teleported to random parts of the trail that happen to have slightly better internet access for the phone for some reason, that seems about as good a time as any to start laughing your ass off and uninstall the game again. Seriously, mobile games like that just do not feel appealing to me even when they work, and the problems I had with Go just made the decision to drop it all the easier. Funnily enough, it's easier and more fun for me to play emulated Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games on a phone than it is to actually play a game that was designed with the touchscreen phones in mind. Not really sure what the appeal is for various mobile games anyway, but it is a popular enough thing, especially in Asia, that I can't really feel like it's entirely a good idea for me to be just dismissive of them altogether. That would be about as ridiculous as me saying there's nothing appealing at all in massive online multiplayer games or battle royale games. Just because I have no interest in that style of entertainment doesn't mean it's complete crap. It just means it's a genre that doesn't appeal to me. Well, we're getting to be a level where I'd feel comfortable with Garm trying to get to the other side of the dark cave again. I think we'll stay here a little longer though. Again, I'm not in any real hurry. It's not like the story has anything especially narratively nice waiting in store for us here. We've just got some Team Rocket hijinks and another gym battle to go through in our near future. A gym battle against grass types. So technically speaking, Garm should do pretty well in there. But then I'm generally more used to walking into Erica's gym with a Fearow and a Charmeleon. Eesh. There's not going to be anything especially dangerous to us in there, but I don't think a Growlithe with Ember is going to have the same impact as the 2 Pokemon I just mentioned, and now I'm already going, maybe I should have brought Mig back just for that frickin' gym. Again, it's not really his fault that he's going to be the runt to the team until he turns into an Arcanine. Come to think of it, is Vulpix supposed to be in any way better than a Growlithe? Because that's Another fire type I generally like, but that's not gonna show up in this particular game. That's a version exclusive to Blue, while our main playthrough for this generation is gonna be Red. Actually kinda surprised just how few Pokemon are version exclusives in the first generation, since it's supposed to be such a major thing for this series. If you just count up the number of Pokemon lines instead of all the individual evolution forms that go with each line. Red lacks 6. Sure, Magmar and Pinsir are lines of 1, but it still seems like a small number. And Blue is also 6, whereas Yellow is missing 7. Plus the evolved form of the starter because they wanted to make Yellow more similar to the anime. Just something that struck me as a bit odd for some reason. Didn't count Mew in those counts because the means of getting the damn thing are so tough, especially these days for the older games, that you're either hacking or obscenely good at Pokemon Stadium. And that's for all 3 versions, not just one of them. Again, kind of wish that the main game would let us see enemy health numbers just like in Stadium. It's actually kind of amazing just how little the numbers they tell you in this game, considering how numbers are pretty much everything from who strikes who first to how much damage and how accurate the hits are. Hell, even the original Final Fantasy would give you numbers to show how much damage a particular attack did, even if it didn't outright say how much health the target has left. You could kind of guess how quickly recurring enemies would go down based on the sheer repetition. And doing it that way certainly made it easier to feel intimidated by bosses, since you could go, holy shit, just how much more can they take? Part of me says I'm being a bit unfair comparing the original Pokemon with the original Final Fantasy. The one was absolutely revolutionary for its time, originally made in 1987 for the NES console, while Pokemon was made in the mid-90s, and it was made for the Game Boy. Sure, it launched a very, very successful franchise, but that is more humble beginnings. And even the slightly upgraded version, the Game Boy Color, just didn't have the processing power to compete with a dedicated home console like the NES. The handheld Nintendo systems didn't start outperforming the NES until the Game Boy Advance came out. And frankly, the Advance was nothing compared to the N64, much less the GameCube that was running at the same time. So it's more than a little absurd to judge handheld games compared to console games. Though sadly enough, even this old handheld game feels superior in many ways to most of the mobile games I've seen. So maybe that's just my personal preferences talking instead of objectivity. Right, that should be enough for now. We'll see if grinding stops in the next clip.